everybody. I'm just doing a little experiment here, trying to see if I can create some papers that I might want to draw portraits on top of. I'd like to have some text underneath and maybe a little bit of color. So I'm going to use 3 colors of Daniel Smith watercolors. I have Pitt Genuine, Rhodonite Genuine, and Mayan Blue Genuine. And then I'm going to put those down, and then I'm going to use these fairly transparent. This one's really transparent. This is a vintage railroad, I don't know what order number sheet. And this is a book page, kind of transparent, a little bit. See my hand moving under there? Has a map on one side and then just some other things on the other side. So I'm just going to put some of this paint down randomly, fairly watered down. I just want some color here and there. I was using these colors for something else, so I don't have a whole lot of them left out here on my glass palette, but I figured I'd try this and use them up. I think I might get another piece of paper and try some other colors. I'm not crazy about the way these are looking together, but we need to let that dry. I'll get another piece. I'm going to use maybe some of the green, and there's maybe the green and the pink. Okay, I changed my watercolors. I have these samples, dot cards from Masha's watercolors. She's on Etsy. They're gorgeous, and they granulate and they separate into different colors. They're really pretty. So I thought I'm going to use those instead. This is the page that I did with the Daniel Smith, and then it was dry, so I just went over it with the Masha's colors. Is that in focus? Focus. I don't know if you can see the color separation, but it's really pretty cool. So I did that one, so that one's fairly dark. And then I used her colors on this one too, and it's much paler, more pastel looking, because it was more diluted, and it was just one layer rather than 2 layers like this one. So I'm going to let these dry really good and then try and put those transparent papers on top of these with some matte medium and see how I like it. So I'll be back. Okay, my watercolor papers have dried. I taped it down. It buckled a little bit, so I did tape it down to my glass mat. And I'm just going to put this piece of transparent receipt paper on top using matte medium. Don't want it to go over top of my tape here, so it's a little cockeyed. Once I get that top where I want it, then the rest will be easier. There we go. So once this dries, I'm hoping that the color really shines through. Right now the brown color of the this top paper being wet is kind of muting that color back, but it should dry clear. Before I go any further, I'm going to gently, with this catalyst wedge, push any air out. I'm not pushing very hard because I don't want to risk tearing this paper. It's very thin. Okay, she's stuck, so now we just have to wait for it to dry. Can't see the color, so hopefully it'll be a little prettier coming through this brownish paper once this is dry. I need to leave it taped down so my paper doesn't buckle. So once that's dry, I will do this one. This one turned out really pretty, so I'll do exactly the same thing, put this piece on top of there. And then I will be back and show you what they look like once they're dry. Okay, my papers are pretty dry. I got one success and one failure. The first one, I'm hoping that's in focus. You can see the color through the paper. It's very soft, but I think it'll be pretty. This one, the paper was just a little too thick, I think. I can't really see any color coming through. So what I'm going to do with that one is I'm just going to put another layer on top. So I'll add more watercolor and then some deli paper on top of that once the watercolor is dry. Some of this text will show through, and so will the new layer of watercolor. So I'm going to do that next, and then I'll be back and show you. Okay, here's what I did on top, and I decided to just cover all of the watercolor paper because I'm not sure exactly how much of it I'll use. I can always tear around the edges or cut it or whatever I decide to do with it. But the color is just so beautiful. These watercolors of Masha's, which I'll link down below. So it's wet. So again, I'm going to let it dry. I don't want to dry it with the heat tool because that really affects the intensity of the color of watercolor. It's really better if you can to let it dry naturally. So, and again, my paper is buckled a little bit. So hopefully once it's completely dry, the paper will settle down. And if it doesn't, you can always put a piece of like parchment over top of it and iron it, or you can just put it underneath something heavy overnight and the paper will eventually flatten back out again once it's completely dry. So that's my little experiment. If I get these done before I get this video uploaded, if I get some portraits done on these, I will put them at the end of the video. If not, I'll show them to you in the next video I do. So hit that button to subscribe and get notified by hitting the bell of when I do new videos, upload new videos, so that you can be notified and come back and watch again. Thanks for being here today. I appreciate your support, and in the meantime, go make some art. Bye.